Well, hello there. Welcome to another episode of Politically Incorrect History. This show is still continuing. I don't know if anyone cares, but I'm going to keep trying. You know, if you've listened to the previous ones, had a few drinks, and we're going to be very unserious about this. I'm joined here by two brothers, by the way. Old face from back in the day, Eric. I'm not going to say your last name, don't worry.
Bonjour, no.
And his older brother who looks like he's a dwarf, Ian.
Something with the camera right now. We're going Little Bear.
Little
Bear. I don't know what's going on with the.
You don't remember with the 3 beds and the porridge? You don't know where you're going with that with the bears there? Okay.
I mean,
that's the one with the Red Riding Hood, right?
Oh my God, we're not going through this. Anyways, I deprompto. We had a few drinks. It's the new year. We didn't even come up with a real subject. Thank you, Ian. So I was thinking I'd just invite the guys over and we would just talk about our favorite battles and just rant about it. I mean, if anyone's watched the previous Politically Incorrect History episodes here, this is a very not serious podcast. I'm not here to actually tell you facts. We're probably going to lie to you or just tell you bullshit. Who knows?
We're actually going to try and sell you weight loss medication because today we're talking about the battle against obesity.
Get some Herbalife going on here.
It's got Alex Jones. You got to take my supplements, okay? Joe Rogan. Tell you. But I'll start it off. Okay, so like, we're talking at first I was like, hey guys, you want to talk about the most significant battles in history? And we just didn't know which ones to really cover. So I'm like, what's our favorite battles? And I mean, I'm the Pacific War guy, so off the bat, I'd say my favorite battle is definitely the Guadalcanal campaign. The reason why, it's the actual turning point of the Pacific War. It's when the Americans actually gained the initiative against the Japanese. And I'd say it's probably one of the ferocious battles. The Japanese literally starved to death on the island, horrifyingly, so it's full of a lot of dark history, that's for sure. It's kind of the real birth of the Marines. It's when the Marines were really thrown into the shit, and we actually get, it's the first morale booster for the Americans. It's the first time they're actually, like, winning land battles again, because other than that, there really wasn't.
But essentially, it also was one of their first campaigns.
Yeah, definitely land campaign.
In the Pacific. Also got to remember, this is, like, somewhat of the outskirts of the Japanese Empire.
It's literally
their supply lines are stretched and reinforced in Guadalcanal, whereas it still was like a middle point between.
This is the outskirts. This is the very end of the Japanese logistical line. It's the same thing for the Americans. They'd never tried to logistically move supplies that far out in the Pacific.
It's a brand new game.
Yeah, and they were on equal. Basically, it was like one of the few times they were on equal terms. Like they both could have won the campaign initially, but the Japanese, they dropped the ball, and the Americans were very ambitious when they landed. It was a surprise. Like,
and they had such an early edge, especially during the early naval battles. I mean, that's when we go back to when the Americans were still going off of like the propaganda that the Japanese are afraid of the night and. They don't know how to fight in the evening. And what did the Japanese do in the first couple of naval battles? Is
night fights.
Night fight, come in,
launch
their torpedoes. Then 10 minutes later, start bombarding, like spotlight one ship, focus fire a ship. Then torpedoes hit, and they just absolutely like start crushing American naval ships.
You got the Battle of Savo Island. You got the naval battle of Guadalcanal, where the Japanese dished a shit ton of pain. You got the Eastern Solomons naval battle, and the Japanese took licks too, and they couldn't build. Whereas the Americans, they lose a few ships, so they can just build them up.
Yeah, that was the first time the Japanese lost a battleship too. Was in the Battle of Guadalcanal.
Yeah, so.
But to be fair, the Americans, well, they didn't lose them, but the Washington and the one other battleship had to go back to port after.
Took a licking and had to go back to Australia. I think they were there.
Like 6 months to a year.
It wasn't one of the Japanese modern battleships. It was one of the older ones.
Yeah. Is it the Hayway? No, the Hayway is a different one. Yeah.
The Hayway, I think that was... Wasn't that off Singapore or...
I forget. Oh, you would know that, didn't you?
Yeah, no,
you had to write a little thing on that one.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
Yeah. But, like, people, people always think about Midway, and they think it's the turning point. And it as a movie, it's great because it's a fantastic story.
It's a turning point in naval terms because all of a sudden the American Navy is not necessarily just on the defense. That now they have a capability of being on the defense, which is, I mean, besides the point, because they were somewhat on the offense before that. They were making their strikes.
They raided, but they're not.
They could not commit into large-scale open battles because it's too much of a loss.
Even Guadalcanal, they were overwhelmed by the Japanese. Yeah. It's just that they snuck onto the island initially. That's what was so bold about it. The Japanese, it was definitely, they could have knocked out most of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. If they actually tried to commit or anything, they would have got...
Well, they were trying. It's just they missed a few opportunities where the planes went to the wrong direction, or they found what they thought was the fleet, but in reality it was the destroyer and the tanker.
Yeah.
And they sent their entire strike force against this two little ships that could have easily taken out... I think it was it... not Hazley,
it was probably Fletcher.
Oh, you mean the commander was Fletcher?
It was Fletcher.
No one remembers that because Fletcher's like this hated individual.
Oh, I went up reading
because Fletcher had overall command.
Other day
but that strike force could have taken out Fletcher's task force if it had found it.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's what I'm saying. All of these things were just most of it was pure luck that they didn't find each other.
When you think about it, that first year for the Americans in World War II, it was luck. You look at...
I don't know how lucky they were. They kind of lost a lot that first year.
The Coral Sea, Midway, that's luck. It's
Coral Sea is not necessarily a defeat. It's a tactical victory.
Both of them can claim victory out of it.
Yeah.
But a loss for the Americans would have impacted a lot more heavily.
I mean, but the thing that people forget is...
Midway, obviously, that was... I can't say that's luck. There's a lot.
No, they were pretty lucky. The strike force only found the Japanese task force because of a lone destroyer that was sent to take out a submarine. If that destroyer wasn't there, hypothetically, they could not have found the Japanese, and Midway could have just been another turning point back in the direction of the Japanese.
Although the Japanese would never have had a good... the best outcome would have been knocking out American shipping because they're not going to take Midway. It was impossible.
The Japanese are going to lose no matter what. Everyone knows they would have lost.
Why they committed so much to actually take the island?
No, it's because the army wanted to have an army aspect to it. The Ichiki detachment wanted to invade. And if you look at the way it was, the pillboxes at Midway, nothing was knocked out. So anybody who landed would have been gunned down immediately.
Well, if they hadn't started arming to send a second wave in to, start knocking out more of the ground defenses.
They thought the surface fleet would bombard
That's what I was going to say.
You're not going to get through pillboxes, even with even the Yamatos, big 18. It's not going to do it.
No, yes, it can.
The Yamato.
If you get a direct hit on a reinforced pillbox,
essentially
the sheer weight of it's going to blow it up.
The thing is, the Japanese were not good at that. They never learned They never did a good amphibious assault.
Because they also didn't have great communications with, your forward range finders, your land elements.
Yeah.
They did not communicate like the Americans. They would get troops on the ground, and then they're in constant communications with their support ships in the back, their battleships and their cruisers. And there's okay, that's 100 meters too far. Bring it in closer, and it's and this leads the way to American artillery suppression, and they absolutely master that.
And there also is shore guns too. I didn't think about that. The shore guns, they're going to get knocked out obviously by naval bombardment eventually, but I think that's pretty dangerous for surface ships.
Yeah, but
whatever Midway would have.
Take Normandy. The Germans had all the.
But you're talking about the Americans who have now learned a lot. They have the experience behind them and the firepower to boot. They had air supremacy.
Yeah, but the shore guns still did some number of damage.
Oh, of course.
On Normandy.
But the Normandy landings are extremely impressive.
Happening in 1944, but at this time around, what's the name of the little that little atoll? The brave Marines, they held it out for
Wake Island.
Yeah, Wake Island.
Yeah, they actually took down a lot.
They had like an 8-inch gun, a 7-inch gun. And these are small, shore batteries. But at the same time, the Japanese forces were like cautious of moving in further because they were heavily like in place, and yeah, they can absolutely do damage, and they did do damage.
They got fucked up. That was an embarrassment. It was the only embarrassment in the initial onslaught, that 6-month period where they were like, fuck, like they actually put up a fight in Wake. It was the only thing the Americans had for like a morale booster too.
Well, they always bring up, the Alamo. The
Texans
Alamo, like,
the Alamo.
fall back to the Alamo.
The Alamo.
But, like, Wake Island is a
better
example of, the last stand. In my own opinion, it's a better example of that valiant, brave last stand.
I like the Battle of Bataan. I hate Douglas MacArthur and how he fucked up the Philippines defense, but the guys who had to fight in Bataan with the limited resources they had, they fought like goddamn lions, especially Filipinos. That was a brutal one. And the Japanese commander, he was so embarrassed because he had basically the timetable was all screwed up because he was taking too long to take it, that they had to bring in another commander. It was really bad for him. Poor guy. But yeah. But I want to get out of the fucking Pacific War. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's why I changed. By the way, the name of the podcast is now Echoes of War. Like this is a separate thing, but I changed since you guys have been on. It's a general history thing now. So I would love to talk about anything other than the Pacific War. You guys got any ideas? I can throw in something, but you got one? You got a favorite little battle? Any ancient history, medieval?
We were talking about it earlier. Agincourt.
Agincourt.
Well, also because something triggered me the other day. My coworker was talking about Joan of Arc being this like military mastermind. I'm like,
what?
Shut up!
What kind of conversation were you having?
No, I was overhearing them talking about Joan of Arc. It's like, okay, first of all, Joan of Arc was like, she didn't know shit.
Reminds me of Deadliest Warrior. We rated her mental thing at about an 8.2. Whoa! Are you serious? Yeah. Okay.
Bring back Spike TV.
I can't.
That was okay.
I love that show so much.
Dude, Spike TV.
But it was so inaccurate.
Oh, dude, like the people they invite on, they're like, oh, this guy's a specialist in pirate weapons. No, he's someone who went to like a Renaissance fair.
I bought a bunch of.
I've been working in the ER in Los Angeles, so I see this every day. Oh, you get
the cannonballs to the gut.
Get like their heads bashed in with maces and like
this is definitely gonna kill him. Oh yeah, he's missing half a head.
I love it. Like a cannonball goes through the torso. Yeah, I'm gonna get a check here. Puts his hand through the body.
See, yeah, this is bad.
That's a kill shot.
Definitely, he's bled out by this point. Thanks, Doc.
First 3 seconds, he's bleeding out, but that's not much after.
Given he doesn't have a head, this is gonna impact how he fights in the battle.
Yes, I always like that. This would definitely impact the future battle.
Oh, so you guys want to turn this into just shitting on Deadliest Warrior? Like,
the Deadliest War was awesome. Like,
some episodes are bullshit.
Zombie versus vampire.
We used to get so excited. Okay, new episodes coming out. All the boys would get together at our place, and we're just watching like Deadliest Warrior, having a couple of brews.
By the time this podcast comes out, my episode will come out. I actually did a YouTube episode called A Retrospective. Does anyone remember Deadliest Warrior? And I talked about how every Thursday night we would all go to your house, get drunk, and watch it.
It was it was awesome.
Oh man, it was the best. And I mean, like, yeah, it's
over the top. Yeah.
I even because I was doing my research, I paused to see what their simulation was, and it's an Excel spreadsheet with like headshot 5 out of 10. Like it's what the fuck?
Yeah, then they kept saying, "Oh, this is our new software design that we brought in."
So bullshit. Yeah, they were just making it all up.
We've ran this simulation 1,000 times.
Like George Washington beat Napoleon. Like,
no,
that made no sense.
Absolutely not. That was bullshit. Sorry, American audience.
Okay. Let's do our own Deadliest Warrior. Let's put George Washington up against Napoleon. Let's give them both 200,000 troops.
Napoleon wins.
Yeah, because Napoleon knows how to manage 200,000 troops, where Washington's
never in his life managed
like maybe 30 to 50,000.
He's a fucking glorified colonel.
And like, what are you talking about? Logistics? He's on his home turf. They got
I mean,
militias.
no, I'll give Washington credit. He did do a lot of great things in the Revolution. You can't take that away from him.
Okay, but
But at the same time, he's not a Napoleon.
Also, he's the only American to ever have the rank of General of the Armed Forces.
Well, technically,
it's essentially
what's an Eisenhower?
There's been 5-star.
Yeah.
But it's what essentially it is. He's a 6-star.
Technically,
and it's General of the Armed Forces. Like he's elevated to posthumously to
so
this.
Like Secretary
no one's ever
of
gonna.
Defense?
No one's ever gonna be a 6-star.
I feel like that's just.
I don't know how things.
And this
are
was
go.
pre-U.S. government too. So like he's probably the only president who was never elected into office.
So basically, it's Washington and then Dick Cheney that have held that position.
Yes.
He was given that position posthumously. Yeah. We're so besides the point. I mean, I want to go back to the point where 200,000 under Washington versus Napoleon. That would be very interesting to see because Napoleon would absolutely just wreck him.
And
it's just
you have to give it to Napoleon. You look at let's take before Waterloo, Battle of Leipzig. Like
30 years.
He's dealing with multiple different factions. Napoleon.
He understands the political game. Yeah. He understands the logistical game. He understands the strategy, and he understands battlefield tactics.
Like, how did they actually defeat Napoleon? I thought this is legendary. The coalitionary forces are like, all of his subordinate generals. Let's go attack all those guys and just ignore Napoleon and not give him battle. That's how they beat him in the end. Like, they couldn't beat Napoleon, so they didn't go after him.
One did.
Well, eventually at Waterloo, but by that time, actually, Napoleon was kind of...
Yeah, that was past his...
All Wellesley wanted was his go at Napoleon.
Yeah, because...
okay, we're going to get to... Because we are bringing up Waterloo
if
later.
you want, we'll do Waterloo. Yeah.
Not... Let's go
you did
back.
Agincourt.
This is what we were supposed to be talking about Agincourt. Now apparently we went on a tangent about Washington.
So
and Napoleon.
if I remember correctly, Agincourt is where the little hobbits with their bows fought the big French knights, right? Just fucking come on.
I'm sorry, my mind is still on Napoleon. Do you mind if we just do Agincourt later?
Okay, you want to do Waterloo?
Let's just skip ahead. And let's go to Waterloo.
All right. We got a guy who's a junkie. He didn't get enough sleep, and he woke up too late to the battle, and he got screwed.
And everyone told him this was a dumb idea. Don't go on the offensive. Why would you push in all our borders are under attack again? We can't take our army and move it out of France.
He did not have the numbers that he had 5 years before.
Yeah, everyone said do a defensive war. Bleed them out, and then come to terms of peace, or France still maintains its authority. Instead,
its sovereignty.
You would never do that.
No, but that's I actually heard this interesting theory.
We gotta back it up. Sorry to interrupt you, Eric.
No, I was going to say,
continue.
There has this theory that all these big names, like you take Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Hannibal, all of them, they all come to their demise just because their character. They can't stop. They always have to push for more. That's who their character is, and they will always end in disaster because you can only win so many times before eventually your opponents learn and check you. So Napoleon was always going to lose. Alexander was always going to lose. Even if he lived, he would have kept pushing. He would have went into Italy. He would have kept going into North Africa. Eventually, he would have met the same type of demise.
I mean, yeah, Alexander was gutting to get killed by his own men, mind you.
Being the brightest star that eventually either burns itself out or collapses on itself. So let's look at Napoleon throughout his his career. His number one adversary being Arthur C. Wellesley. I mean, this is a very
maybe near the end.
You're forgetting because the
most
first coalition.
Yeah,
was,
when he took Austria, he took the Holy Roman Empire. Back then, I think his biggest adversary would have been Prussia and Russia. I don't know the commanders.
Absolutely, yeah. And at that time, Wellesley was still, a small player in the game. All he was doing was just keeping the Portugal and peninsula, starting off with the defense of Portugal, and then taking a little bit of Spain and then having to fall back to Portugal as
No, I'll give it to him.
reinforces itself.
His Peninsula
But
campaign was amazing.
Then out of nowhere, like Wellesley absolutely does take Spain, and then he starts pushing into France, and
But that was near the end of the.
The thing is, like, this isn't actually the heyday.
It's right.
Yeah,
It's
past,
roughly.
That's past after he lost in Russia.
It's
and
roughly
that's the downhill.
when
Napoleon.
he's taking Spain. It's while Napoleon's in Russia.
Like that was the adversary for Napoleon. Was the Russian winter
himself?
You could say, I would agree. You can say his biggest adversary was himself.
The biggest
because he was also
Leipzig.
like it was suggested to him. Okay, maybe we don't take the same route back.
Maybe we just don't go in Russia.
And also, let's not fight them on their turf. In their
the biggest loss for Napoleon is the Battle of Leipzig. That's when the coalitionary forces they found a strategy to defeat him. And then, like he said, when the Russian campaign killed the rest of his army.
And the thing about Leipzig too was,
and it was used at Waterloo as well, because Napoleon sent 1/3 of his force off to go. Go after the Prussians.
The thing about Waterloo, it's the end. That's why people remember.
What I'm saying, and it's
it
was big, but it wasn't.
When he sent his 1/3 of the force off to go fight, was 2,000 men out of the Prussian army. Because they did a whole fucking.
But even if Napoleon won at Waterloo, he would have lost down the road. He wouldn't have had the manpower to keep it up.
It was going
and that's
downhill.
why I was bringing up because you brought up Leipzig. That's actually where he lost all of his experienced troops. Everyone forgets that he took most of Europe with his original army because they were the most highly trained and efficient. At Leipzig, he threw them in, and they were saying they were companies that had 80% casualties, and these were all veterans. He lost 2/3 of his veteran corps in that battle.
That's when he still had the ground.
Everything after that was conscripts, and everything after that was not as well trained soldiers. So you could even say that was the turning point, even though no one knew it yet.
It's like the same arguments, like the Japanese, like at Okinawa, they could have made a great stand. It's like by that point they had lost the war, though. But yes, Okinawa, they did a shit ton of damage to the Americans, but it's the end. Waterloo is the end for Napoleon. Like he knows he could only maybe get a treaty if he somehow inflicted a lot of casualties.
That's what he was
essentially
hoping for.
That was probably what he was, because if he crushes Wellesley there, then he can go to the negotiating table with a higher favor.
That's why he should have done a defensive campaign.
He did outnumber Wellesley's coalition troops. Majority of them were British, but these are new British soldiers to Wellington. He's not.
This isn't the Peninsula campaign.
He doesn't have his army that was with him for 20 years. And this was like the most powerful British army at the time was Wellesley's British army that was with him in the Peninsula campaign. These guys, because they came with him from India and he had a lot of Dutch troops, but Wellesley had learned a lot about working with other nations and working with troops of different cultures and different languages, and he made it work. He made everyone understand, if you're in my army, you fight this way, you react this way, you do it this way. There is no you're this or that. It's like you do it this way.
I think everybody was kind of on page to get rid of Napoleon. I mean, it had been a while.
Think about it.
Well, it was one of the first times Napoleon came across somebody who could react as fast as he does on a battlefield.
But put yourself in the shoes of all of Napoleon's adversaries. Yeah, everyone raves about Napoleon because of his accomplishments, but you don't know what did he do to the entire economies. What did he do to international trade? The reality is, Napoleon disrupted everything, and most nations were suffering because
he created
they didn't have the
new system.
But it's not a system. The system was what benefits Napoleon.
The idea of citizenship that had not existed before.
Yeah, it did.
Lots of people. You did not think of yourself as like, oh, I am French. It's no. Now you actually felt that you were French. It was.
Okay, maybe there was like a little nationalism thing there, but I mean, you're coming off of the French Revolution. There's other things other than like Napoleon's conquest.
And there was a lot of poverty that came after Napoleon.
Fuck yeah.
There was a lot of power shifting that wasn't to the benefit to a lot of people. The reality is why everyone hated Napoleon was before that you had all these nations that fought, but they still had the recognition that if I destroy my opponent, it actually affects me worse than if I just beat them on a battle, make a treaty, and then we go back to
status quo.
Yeah. Napoleon threw all that out the window, and look what happened after Napoleon. Europe was completely in chaos for the next century, up until World War II. Europe, because all of its pre-power, Austria, the Holy Roman Empire, Russia, Poland, and Lithuania, all those, the power completely shifted. So for the next century and a half, Europe was trying to resettle into a more calm thing. So you can literally say Napoleon kind of
threw a wrench into the balance of power.
He certainly did. Because if you look at the numbers, more men died in battle under Napoleon than they did in World War I and II, like Frenchmen. If you look at the populations of the world at the time, the population of France.
You're saying percentage-wise?
Percentage-wise.
Okay, well that's different from numbers.
Per capita,
yeah. More died in Napoleonic era than they did in World War I or II. And we all know, like, World War I was absolutely freaking brutal for France, especially. So imagine looking at it in the Napoleonic era now as well. Like, that's extreme loss. Like, an entire generation lost.
Well, those frogs came back. they still came back for World War I and the Franco-Prussian War. Yeah. They didn't show up to the Franco-Prussian War, mind I add, but you know. All right, so
it was. Well,
let's let Eric choose a battle. Please.
I want to finish off with Arthur C. Wellesley. He's my boy. He's one of my heroes. He's Irish. And
saying he's just a useless drunk then.
Well, he's English Irish.
Okay, if he's orange, it's different. It's all right. You got any favorite battles?
I don't know what favorite. Just to throw something out there, what about the Battle of Hastings?
Definitely important.
Yeah.
I mean, I think anybody...
This one I know so much less about.
But it's actually, I think Hastings is important, but I forget the name of the battle, but the battle that happened with Canuck before, where King Harold actually killed the last great Viking incursion into England.
Yeah.
And then he rushed his forces down to the south, because that's where King of Normandy...
is it Harold?
No, William the Conqueror.
William the Conqueror.
He came over from Normandy, and then he fought a depleted... would you say a Wessex army? Or
sure.
Maybe, but
I do not know.
I don't know a whole lot, but I do know. Yeah, so Harold went up north because Canuck and another Viking incursion from Northumbria was fighting, and so he took his very experienced army up north, defeated the Vikings, but it was a very bloody battle. Yeah. And then he heard that then the Normans had invaded the south, so he didn't even get a chance. He rushed right down south, exhausted his army, and then the whole battle of the so-called Feign Retreat, which I know historians have been debating on how much is more myth than actual reality of
course.
Because the whole general belief is that William just kept sending his forces up a hill, then made them come down, and then the Saxons would come down after him, and then they would kill the Saxons, and they kept doing that until I think it's Harold or whatever his name is took a bolt to the eye.
Yeah.
Some would say can't continue fighting after that.
But I mean,
it was on Deadliest Warrior.
Deadliest Warrior.
William the Conqueror
lost to Joanna. Oh my god!
I know
that fucking.
But to be fair, just on the side,
we're gonna get to
Joan of Arc's armor
I'm gonna
would have actually protected her from William the Conqueror's weapons. Yeah. But anyway, so this whole Battle of Hastings is considered as the birth of England, kind of.
It is, yeah, for sure.
Because the William comes, the Normans, so they bring that French culture into England, and then from there it kind of unifies. I'm not 100% sure on the timeline of England. I don't know if prior to this the Saxons had unified England, or if it was still Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria.
It comes down to Alfred the Great.
Yeah, but that's prior to...
He dreamed of a unified England, with Wessex being
that is before Hastings. That's like a century or two before.
A century or two before. There's loose alliances, but it never becomes like an England. It really is William the Conqueror that brings it all into the fold, and then it becomes England. And then, with his Norman power, because he still has Normandy.
It's a very wealthy province.
Oh, extremely wealthy. And then you have the contention between the English and the French for the next 500 years.
Yeah, well, you can literally say the Battle of Hastings is what led to the 100 Years' War, because the Norman possessions entitled the King of England to the crown of France.
Yeah.
And so when that whole succession issue came up, that is when you get
Henry. It's all the same bloodlines, and when you're comparing, one is a Viking bloodline, one is the weak little tapettes.
I wouldn't say the Saxons were weak. They just
no. I'm talking.
They
about,
just beat all the so-called Vikings.
What did they call them? The Dolphins. Dauphins.
What? I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Dolphins.
Oh, the
of
Dauphin,
France.
the king.
Oh, okay.
The
no, isn't that the Prince of France?
Oh, Prince of that, but it's the royalty.
But they're always like
they're not dolphins.
When I was younger, I actually thought that they did have dolphins, and I remember hearing the story of Joan of Arc when I was a kid, and it was Joan of Arc was blessed by the Dolphin of France. And,
you wait till you know there's a dolphin that blessed Joan of Arc. Let's get into this.
Yeah, but then I also saw a movie with
you saw
Keanu Reeves, and a dolphin was like the supercomputer, and so I didn't know what was.
What does that have to do with?
Oh my God, Johnny Matron.
That's
a bad movie.
Johnny Maniac.
Yeah, it's a terrible movie. That movie is bonkers.
Filmed
weird.
in Montreal, but so I saw that as a kid, and so I knew dolphins were everywhere, and then I heard it was dolphin, the Dolphin of France. I was like, they have
Dolphin of France. You know what? I'm gonna use AI to make clips of this one. The Dolphin of France.
I thought it was there's actually a position.
Joan of Arc was blessed by the Dolphin of France.
Oh my God.
She put her finger in his blowhole. Oh my God, where the hell did this one go?
I don't know. But anyway, so
we're not even at Agincourt yet.
So the Battle of Hastings was a pretty important one.
Could have changed the entire history of Britain.
Well, think about it. If the Normans had lost, Saxons would still be in control of England, and you might not have even had the 100-Year War.
Yeah, that's true.
And at the same time, the 100-Year War was a benefit to France in the sense that their political system was so stagnant and so, I don't want to say corrupt, but so immovable with the nobility that the 100 Years' War, especially, you want to say the Battle of Agincourt, Battle of something with a C, Cree, or anyways, the exact same outcome. But all of the nobility was killed off, so it forced France to bring up a whole new set of nobility, usually more on merit and battle prowess. So they were able to beat the English and eventually become one of the strongest empires, was because English came in and kind of kicked the rotten structure out and forced them to rebuild.
They needed a kick because they were still on their fucking high and mighty horses. We had Emperor Charlemagne, and it's like,
don't diss him. He was a fucking great.
Oh no, Charlemagne! I don't think anyone.
But he was one man, and then immediately after him, it was shit.
He was the best transition between sheer Viking savagery from the Germanic people into coming into this rich.
But also,
the Vikings were the only savage one. It's like
but you also gotta remember
communities were massacring each other all the time.
Vikings were just the pagans. It's the fallout of the Roman Empire collapsing.
Yeah,
Charlemagne came in, and he had a great way of organizing. large populations.
He brought with him the same look of all the warlord types at the time, but he was in charge of like this group of people that were espousing like actual like literacy and stuff. Sorry to say. So he was like the thug who came into this place, organized everything. All the other thugs in like what was Germania and all that are like, oh shit, this guy's actually tough, maybe. And then he won a lot of battles. Like, yeah, he was a unifier.
He was
an incredible ruler.
And then unfortunately, he did have foresight. He was like, okay, I can't give it all to one person.
Yeah, and then he splits it up amongst
But the problem
his
with splitting it up,
it's not good.
It creates the opposite problem.
Yeah,
Because now you're creating power struggles between multiple nations.
Look at Alexander's empire. After his death.
I mean, that's because he never technically chose, and they all fucking just clung onto their little parts.
Colin Farrell would definitely name me his successor, if anything.
Well, that's a stretch.
Oh, so you're the boyfriend that was like the
because back in the I'm breaking walls.
Oh, you know who was the actor
back in the
who
day,
played his
people
boyfriend?
said I look like Colin Farrell. It wasn't his. It's Jared Leto.
Yeah, even though it was he was in love with that guy. Yeah, he was.
In real life?
Well, there's evidence that
Colin Farrell and Jared Leto.
Very much. I'll put $50 down and say they're in love.
Did they do that just for the movie, or
no? There's evidence.
Because also like people were like, oh, okay, there's also like an incest thing between him.
I thought this was a history podcast. Why are we talking about?
No, the reason they did all that.
It's the history of a film.
The sexual tension stuff is just because his mom, like she was a very interesting witch character.
They're not weird. They're not gay. They're just Greek.
They weren't Greek.
They were Macedonian.
Macedonian.
Okay, well, Heracles visited Macedonia.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about the myth of it. Yeah.
Well, okay, what are the rules to be considered a Greek?
You have to be part of the Greek city-states.
Well, even back then, there was
two rules,
but there wasn't a concept of being Greek. Back then.
No, there's
not
two,
really.
There wasn't a concept that you would be. No, I'm Syracusan. I'm Athenian. I'm Spartan. I'm
like when
either you are mentioned in either of Homer's works, or Heracles had visited your city. That's what made you Greek. Those were the two rules.
Okay, all the Greek city-states considered the Macedonians fucking barbarians.
That is true.
As you know,
Philip II was not a Greek.
our professor would be up very late with
no. No.
Is it Tiffany? I was about to say Tiffany. Stephanie? It was Stephanie. Yeah, he'd be up very late.
She might be listening
Stephanie
to this. You shouldn't mention this. Don't mention the professor's name.
What, the PA was having an affair with our Greek history professor, and the head of the department was his ex-wife.
Okay, do you want to get into this like on the podcast?
Again?
So, anyways, me and Ian were in university together. We took what I can only call a very light a light course at night. We had a few drinks over.
Yeah.
Ancient
and
Greek
we also
history.
had like a few hour break between classes.
Give context to the audience. So we had this rather funny professor who had his TA in the front row, and he would just, for no apparent reason, every time we had class, talk about how we would spend all night with her going over the essays and grading.
What
and the
we're
way
gonna
that
talk about tonight, just like we were up very late last night talking about what we're gonna do today.
It was so obvious something was going on there, and it was awkward as hell. You could tell that she was uncomfortable when he was mentioning this.
I can imagine.
And then we learned that
His wife.
His ex-wife is the head of the department, but he's got tenure, so he doesn't care.
What a university, eh? All the sex scandals. Remember the English?
Yeah, I heard the English department. That one was.
They were sleeping with everybody. One of the heads in the neuro department was sleeping with all of the TAs. Jason told me about that. He had a lot of information on that one. I was like, oh my god. There's a lot of tomfoolery going around. We're not going to name the university, although it's a shit.
So send your kids to university. You know,
if you want them to learn about sex.
Well, you're going to learn about sex. You want good grades? You're gonna learn about sex. This is why politically incorrect history is not part of the main podcast series that I do, and I won't get in trouble hopefully because I won't put this on the other YouTube channel. It'll be just on my audio one. Yeah.
All right. So who's picking the next one?
You did well. Ian wants to do Agincourt, right?
I guess we could.
I feel like we've been trying to do Agincourt for.
Just explain to the audience.
We're talking. We started about the 100-Year War, so go on about what Agincourt was.
I just wanted to rant about Joan of Arc, and it has nothing to do with Agincourt.
No, that's Joan of Arc is after Agincourt.
I know
a while
after. Agincourt is like start of the 100 Years War, and okay, it's great that we started with the Battle of Hastings, and like we established
it is a segue.
It's coming from Normandy. We've established England, and England does have a right to the crown of France.
Well, no. England doesn't. It's the King of England, who is also the Duke of Normandy, has bloodline connected with the
land
French.
Is the king.
So he would have been the King of England and the King of France. England and France wouldn't have been one nation. It would have been like aristocrats always have different ownership to different lands. Like you could have lands in the Holy Roman Empire and be
true
a governor in Spain, and that it would be the same type of thing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Psst. Hey you ever hear me talk about some great Pacific War movie or documentary like Pearl Harbor Minute by Minute over on Netflix and feel the urge to watch it for yourself? Uh-oh, you live in Japan and your Netflix doesn't have it? Must suck to be you.
Sucks to be me right now.
Oh wow, Season 4 of Demon Slayer is out. Oh wait, I can't watch it on Canadian Netflix, but it's over on Japan Netflix? Whatever will I do?
Oh, no.
Being blocked from regional content? With private internet access, you too can watch Demon Slayer Season 4 by switching your IP address to Japan.
Yes! Hell yeah!
Why stop with Japan? With private internet access, you can change your IP address to over 84 different countries and every single US state, giving you access to region-restricted content all over the world.
Nice.
Many websites and services like Netflix are only accessible depending on your physical location, but private internet access helps you overcome these restrictions. Think about it. Without private internet access, it's like paying for a TV series and missing out on the latest season. Shots fired, Demon Slayer on Canadian Netflix.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Ever fear people are gonna find your Google searches?
Banzai! Banzai! Banzai!
FBI, open up!
Private internet access makes sure that those Google searches remain a buried secret, as private internet access encrypts your internet access and has a no logs policy. Think you're safe with the local coffee shop's free Wi-Fi? No, you are certainly not. Private internet access gives you more privacy features than any other software, and real-time protection from malware and trackers, giving you peace of mind knowing those Google searches remain seen by you and you alone. Private internet access has a no-log policy that they've defended in court, which means they are not storing any of your browsing data. Hey, are you like me using different devices under one household? Private internet access is available on all platforms and protects an unlimited amount of devices at the same time. I personally use private internet access to unblock movies and TV series from all across the globe, and I sleep easier writing scripts for my YouTube channel and others knowing my data is secure. Look, this is a no-brainer. Sign up with my link in the description of this video to get 83% off, plus 4 months for free, so it ends up being only around $2 per month. Signing up for private internet access is risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and 24/7 customer support is available. So don't forget to click www.piavpn.com/the Pacific War channel, and a big thanks to private internet access for sponsoring this video. Do you want to bring up what happens at Agincourt?
Yeah.
Are you still interested in this? You look like, I want to do something else.
Okay, so Agincourt's interesting. That's where "fuck you" comes from.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's true.
When they cut the whatever finger this is.
It's isn't it? Is it the one finger
Yeah,
or is it this?
they
finger?
would cut this because they believed if they cut this finger off,
That they couldn't pull.
they couldn't pull. But the longbowmen were able to still do it with
Okay, yeah,
these
the
fingers.
middle finger. Yeah.
So when they walked by the prisoners, they were
They would-
showing them
yeah.
the finger.
They would cut these two off. They would cut the two of them off, and then you cannot draw.
Yeah, but that doesn't make sense for the story. They have to have the middle finger.
They believed you couldn't pull a string with just one finger, and this they never thought like this.
Oh, okay.
This,
Okay, so
like,
even
would
even with the middle finger, there was still enough.
Well, they
Not as
learned how to
accurate?
do
Yeah,
it because
okay, yeah.
It's not as easy, but you can still.
No,
do
but
it.
you also like do it yourself. Like you feel
It's different.
You feel the strain on your hand. You're definitely losing accuracy.
It is pretty messed up that they were like, yeah, you know what? We'll just neutralize this group of people by cutting off a finger.
Well,
Rather than
keeping prisoners,
just outright killing them.
It's like they're being very
if,
nice
If
all of a
you
sudden.
kill your prisoners, 10-1, the other side's going to kill their prisoners. So
Well,
you don't want that to happen.
Okay, so let's get back to Agincourt because there were a lot of French prisoners.
Yeah, didn't they all get massacred?
Yeah.
Can I get to the story?
Yeah, tell the story.
No,
Yeah.
go on it. We've been waiting.
You seem giddy about it.
Well, because we just talked about like, okay, you can't kill your prisoners, and well, okay, that's exactly what happens at the end of Agincourt. Henry's like, yeah, we cannot feed this. Like they outnumber our own army.
Well, that's what
The
happens when you
prisoners
win
is like
so
we
heavily.
cannot feed them. We cannot.
And
if we
wasn't there
let
like
them,
another French army on its way?
yeah,
too?
and if we let them go, they're just gonna go join them, and then like then we're gonna fight another. It's just okay. So he kills him, and then he rushes up to the was it Versailles at the time was the capital, and and then he has his encounter with the French king. He's like, okay, so I'm gonna be king of France now, but. The King of France gives him not an ultimatum, but a proposal. It's, I remain King of France, and upon my death, you will be my successor, and I will give you my daughter, and you'll create children yourselves, and either way, your line is going to be the future of France.
This is how it was going to work for a long time now.
Remain king of France until I die, and let me just have a fun time.
You just wanted to keep rolling, and
let me stay in the hot tub.
So I just want to keep rolling the medieval pussy for now, buddy, and you get your limelight.
And it worked out for him in the end. That you did get France back.
Okay, so the Battle of Agincourt was Henry came over, and he didn't have the largest army, but he did bring a new thing that that part of Europe had not encountered.
Okay, maybe can I just, because you're not selling this shit to the audience who doesn't know about this. So, like a much smaller force adopted basically we could call it like a new technology.
It wasn't new. It was by the Welsh. Once they,
it's a new. That's what I was trying to say. It's a new technology to that part of Europe.
The French knights didn't know what they were dealing with.
It's not new to Wales.
Okay. The French knew about the longbow. The knights knew about the longbow.
Yeah,
it's
but
just
they never encountered it.
Craig is right. Craig is right. We have to explain what the hell's going on.
Because you're like, why is this important? Like, well, who cares about it? Why did we hear about Agincourt? It's because they all of a sudden they had this concentrated group of longbowmen. They had been, they had this system afterwards where every single village had to have trained longbowmen, and their sons had to be trained longbowmen. Like, it was a big fucking thing.
Every village has to
produce at least a few.
Every village has to have a certain amount of fletchers per village, and those are the guys that make arrows.
Yeah. They built their entire little thing off this, and it dethroned the French knight. Basically, they had figured out a way, and they had a fraction of the forces France had.
Knight, these are the nobility. These are the rich aristocrats, and their heavy, shiny, polished armor, and
they got fucked up. All these nobles got killed. What was it? The Black Prince was.
The Black Prince is about I think it's 40, 50 years later, 60 years later.
Yeah.
Actually, probably about 70. You know what? You're part of a channel that would explain that better than I do.
I mean, I don't know medieval history. I tell the audience all the time that's my weakest. I don't.
Either way, so the 100 Years' War started because
England fucking France for 100 years.
You're still. There was a succession issue in France over who would take over the crown because the Duke of Normandy had title rights to the crown, and who was the King of England at that time, who was the descendant of William the Conqueror. He decided to push his claim by landing in France.
But he didn't even want to have the crown in France. He went to France because he felt France was fucking targeting him personally and trying to assassinate him. He didn't even want to be king of England.
No,
But France kept trying to fucking assassinate him. So he's like, okay, you know what? Fuck this. Fuck this. You guys aren't going to let me fucking drink and whore around. You're going to fucking try to kill me every night. And I'm going to go to your house.
That's exactly
and
how
I'm going to kill
him.
you. That's what he did. He's fucking sick of it.
They were going out so they started the first campaign of the 100 Year War, which 100 Years War wasn't a war that lasted 100 years. It was in reality a lot of small campaigns that lasted over that time period.
And it wasn't 100 years.
And in this battle, yes, the Dauphin sent up a large
Dolphin
force.
of France.
The fucking Dolphin of France. This is the best part.
Which was very heavy cavalry oriented, which was the French tactic.
Yeah.
The English tactic at that time, because they didn't have as much men, was more archery based, attack from a distance. Now, both of these sides understood each other's plan because they've used them throughout history, the exact same tactic. And the French knew, okay, if we can get to the longbowmen's lines, our heavy cavalry will defeat them. And vice versa, the English knew we have to kill as many of them before they get to our line because then they'll kill us. Yeah. So both had very sound tactics. Oh. It was merely that during this battle, it was very muddy. They got lucky with the weather. So they kept getting slowed down.
If anyone's seen the movie with what's his name, the kid from Dune,
Netflix,
the King.
Yeah.
French actor. I think he's French.
He's French American. I forget his name, but
yeah, it's actually a really good movie, and the Twilight guy is the Dolphin of France.
Yes, he's the Dolphin of France. This is good. I have to make sure to make a clip.
But so so they sent all these heavy. Well, first they sent in the crossbowmen and that, but they couldn't get close enough to the lines to actually fire.
The longbow has like an extra 100 meters, 150 meters on the crossbow.
And there was this whole thing of chivalry back then, where the French knights saw these Genoese crossbowmen as cowards,
the common people. How can the common person make fuck on me?
Exactly. But, so it is true. When the French cavalry went through their line, they speared a lot of their own men because of cowardliness, which is crazy. But anyway, so then they're charging, and then they're getting stuck in mud, which is slowing down. If the ground wasn't that muddy, it is very likely that all the French cavalry, even getting riddled with arrows, remember, there's only so many arrows that are going to have kill shots. So if you can close that distance in a fast amount of time with the amount of knights they had, they most likely would have broken through the line, which has happened. Well, it happened in the future and in the past where French knights have been able to do that.
I saw the Battle of Pelennor Field. I know how it goes.
So true. Because of that, it slowed down the knights.
In front, archers in back.
And once they were slowed down, they got riddled, and then they sent in their men-at-arms and essentially just took down all the French cavalry to the point where they all...
But also, the English longbowmen were armed with weapons that were meant to deal with armored opponents. And they're all dressed in fucking leather armor. They're light. Yeah, a sword will fucking kill them in a second.
You can get them,
But they're fucking swift and agile, and they're fighting in mud. And you have these heavy 400-pound knights.
Like 400 pounds.
That's a little
like 250, maybe.
They're like 60 pounds.
Steel's heavy.
Modern day soldiers' equipment is heavier than a suit of armor. The suit of armors were usually around 60 pounds, 60 to 70 pounds.
They lose a lot of mobility.
Yes, they do.
Meanwhile, they're up against an extremely mobile, and they're holding long arm weapons that just, like, all it is, it's just a fucking pike at the end, and all they do is just fucking...
That was decisive in that.
Yeah, no, so it was. At the end of the day, what did happen and why Agincourt is so important is that it did kill off a large section of the nobility in France, which usually were their military leaders, their knights and that. So it did, for the benefit of France, it forced France to adapt, to bring in a new type of nobility that wasn't so, I don't want to say honor-bound, but more tactically savvy, and that actually redefined how France was being governed at that time. So France came out as a powerhouse in the end over Agincourt. Even though it was an English victory, France did benefit.
It was an English victory, and England kind of like controls France for the next 100 years, and then we go to the end of the 100 Years' War, and then the new Dolphin of France.
He loves the dolphin.
Comes out of nowhere and like meets this like village girl and who has fucking visions of shit, and is like, oh, okay, she's gonna be the savior. And at this time, like, England doesn't even really want to control France anymore. They're already pulling back. It's like they know they're pulling.
No, the king wants France. It's the Parliament doesn't, because it's bankrupt in England.
Yeah,
to keep
it's
France.
not feasible to hold France.
There's not enough revenue.
Whether it's admitted or not, they want out of France. And so the Dolphin of France finds this fucking village girl who has visions of fucking God and props her up as this fucking virgin savior, and she comes in on a fucking white horse and fucking blue flags, and she's like, poor Patty, poor for God. And you know what? And
it worked
for a while.
England, even in her death,
England
it worked.
Didn't fucking care. England was already pulling out. They're like, okay, fucking. And you know what? They found the fucking bitch anyways.
It's like
fucking
most of this podcast has been Ian just like really butthurt about Joan of Arc's existence. She really offends you.
I don't know why. The reality is she did do a lot, and she actually was a pivotal character.
It comes back to Deadliest Warrior.
Yeah, I know, but we can't go. We've established you can't go off of Deadliest Warrior because that show makes no sense.
Stupid, because the good guys lost.
Like
the good guys lost.
They put a knight versus a pirate instead of the knight versus a samurai. Like that, those are logical.
It still bothers me to this day.
Yeah, like why wouldn't you put the two heaviest armored warriors against each other? Instead, you put a firearm against a knight. There's a reason why knights went out of favor. It's because of the goddamn gun. So you put them against a gun and be like, oh, the pirate won.
No shit. Okay.
Who would have known?
All of us have seen Indiana Jones. We know what happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was just saying.
All right, to end this pot, because it's going on pretty long, I'm trying to think, like, to end this off, what is a battle where it took, like, real balls for one side to actually, even if they lost, to go through with it? What comes to mind?
Battle where?
Like, real...
Against all odds.
Against odds to go through.
Oh, so you're talking about, like, like a 300 moment?
Yeah, Thermopylae could be one, for sure.
I mean, Thermopylae,
Wake Island,
we already talked about Wake Island.
Yeah,
there is Stalingrad.
I'm still gonna.
We could talk about Stalingrad.
Stalingrad definitely going against odds.
Stalingrad could have been better, but Stalin fucked up. Like he just doesn't know
both
how to fucking.
Sides fucked up.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't put it all on Stalin.
You want to talk about General Paulus? Mr. I can only take orders from Hitler.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What if scenarios? It's just like.
But I would say like
ignore Stalingrad for now. And
by all means, Stalingrad should have been taken. The reality that 90% of the city was occupied, if not more, and they were left with this little stretch.
In hindsight, they should have just put a fucking little force there. Container,
moved on,
and then moved on, and then come back
that
later.
Is the biggest. But we'll just say for hindsight, even if they did do that, Germany would have lost no matter what. Russia was rebuilding, like it was. Yeah, it was stockpiling. Like
it was not.
Even if it went south, what would have happened then? Stalin would have then gone and cut off that whole army that's in the Caucasus.
Yeah, but what made fucking Russia rebuild? Yeah, that was America, like fucking.
Yeah, but it's indifferent to the plight of Stalingrad. But
yeah, like that. You're right. I'm not saying the Northern Convoy system was a lifeline for Russia. Everyone knows about that.
My what if scenario is what if Hitler invested everything into the U-boat system rather than trying to build bigger boats?
Oh, you mean listening to Donuts? Like, Donuts is like, the only thing that matters is U-boats. I don't want surface ships. Yeah. We're going to build another Bismarck.
Yeah, but even if they built the U-boats, they would have had a lot more dead U-boats.
Donuts being the last leader of the Nazi regime.
Yeah, I could just
imagine. So-called good Nazi.
Imagine Hitler's like, I want to hear reports. How many ships has the Tirpitz taken down? Nothing. It's hiding.
It was useful
Well,
as
the Northern Convoy system, I will say, the
an
Tirpitz and that,
anti-aircraft
Okay.
platform.
it forced the British and that to heavily
Yeah.
escort their
Sure.
convoys because they knew that they
How-
had this.
Just
Okay,
at any
I don't
point.
know how many submarines could you cut out of a Tirpitz, though.
But the Tirpitz never left. Like
And it wasn't. It was actually the Eisenhower.
the
that
Scharnhorst.
was-
The Scharnhorst was always out there raiding, and is that
It fucking angers
I
me every
know-
time.
I know
You did it on
triggers
purpose. You did. You're gonna name the other boat after
what's the right name? Scharnhorst.
Scharnhorst, and it's not the. What did
That's
you
what
say
I
with
said. That's what I said.
the Giznow? What did you call it?
The Gneisenau?
Fucking goddamn.
No, it's not. But anyways, we were talking about
No, the G
Stalingrad.
is silent.
You know what? But he has a good point. Like if Donitz had just because it's the other guy was Admiral Rader. Rader didn't want to do the fucking submarine program, and Donitz was there in his corner flinging his little thumbs.
It's like we're fucking winning big.
So
right
like
now
Donitz is
with
like
this.
the only chance we have is
Let's
more
double
U-boats.
down. Let's
Yeah.
double down.
Yeah, but if
Because
they
he
doubled
did-
down, what
he-
would have happened? You would have doubled the amount of lost U-boats because the Allied technology was going to hit.
Oh, they're
was
never
gonna-
gonna win.
No,
Yeah,
they're not gonna
but
win.
it would impact everything in Russia.
I'll tell you one thing that it would have made a difference for. The whole battle for the Mediterranean, when the Germans got sucked into that and they had to take some of the U-boat fleet into there because the Italians could
Yeah.
do shit.
Yeah.
Hey, if they had a few more U-boats, the Atlantic and the Mediterranean might have been more secure.
I mean, okay, that is fair because the whole Battle of Malta, if there were more U-boats, yes, and if those convoys that like went into Malta almost destroyed because of the Luftwaffe.
the
and
fucking Allies lost so many goddamn ships with Malta.
Yeah.
The whole siege of Malta is insane.
But you have to give it by keeping Malta. They extremely helped in North Africa.
Malta won the war of the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Outside of the Graf Spee, was there at any point a useful Kriegsmarine surface ship?
Well, the Bismarck kinda had a nice little heyday. for a bit.
It slapped the English
You know,
in the
in
face.
The early part
But
of the
also,
war, yeah.
it destroyed their flagship, which was a 1920s heavy cruiser.
Yeah, but people
Or,
forget
not heavy cruiser, but battle cruiser.
the battle for Norway at the very beginning. Like the
It's
German surface
not
fleet actually
worth
did
a
some
lot,
stuff.
yeah.
You can make 10 U-boats out of what they spent.
Yeah, no,
10
like,
plus
all the
U-boats
surface ships
out
you
of
can get
what
rid
they
of.
spent on building the.
What the fuck is the
Bismarck.
aircraft carrier? That piece of shit thing that they.
Oh, the
that
Graf
Zeppelin?
If they didn't build that piece of shit, like they could have got like 10 U-boats out of that.
More.
But like you said,
A lot more.
you had the great point. In the beginning of the war, the surface fleet and the U-boat, the Germans were pushing back the English.
The running, what do they call it? The running of the blockade.
Yeah.
That was the only time when the surface fleet kind of like did a lot of
Yeah.
stuff, and they.
But
did,
then as the war
That's-
progressed,
that's
Germany
when-
couldn't keep up.
But that's
with
also
the
when they
industrial-
started getting exhausted. Because you got to remember, they didn't have enough to rotate their crews. They didn't have enough to rotate their ships.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you had these spots in time where there's not as many U-boats in the water because they're in dock. Crews got to fucking rest. You know, we're not fucking robots.
Germans are.
Oh,
They
well,
like to work.
Yeah.
They love to
You
work.
can't have people on fucking K chocolate for fucking
3, 4,
5
5
years.
days.
yeah, but not 5 years.
Panzer chocolate. I love like the different grades of meth that they would get. So if you're
Oh,
like in a
yeah.
tank, if you were with Heinz Guderian, it's like you're getting prime meth. You're going out there, boy.
Yeah, no, near the end.
You're getting white chocolate.
I don't want to name names, but a certain individual was really angry because apparently it's the books that have been written recently about all the meth that was used. There's an individual I know that says this actually isn't true and that scholars do not agree with it. And anyways, it's this discussion apparently.
Really?
Apparently there's a huge debate in the history community of World War II that it's overdone and like not everybody was getting meth, but even the Americans were using it.
That's what I say.
anyways.
So,
Yeah.
but I can believe that scholars or just general armchair historians over the time heard these exaggerations of it, and then it built up over time to think like all Germans
yeah.
were on it, when it could have just been in reality certain campaigns that had a heavy use of meth, and that just overshadowed everything.
One of the greatest examples of like YouTube, I'm not gonna name names again, of YouTubers getting shit wrong. There's a famous battle. It was the Battle of Kiska, where apparently there was these clickbaity videos that were put out. Canadians and American soldiers accidentally killed each other.
I mean, it did happen.
No, not really. There was
Well, no, we've
booby
gotten
traps.
bombed. I mean, Americans have bombed themselves.
Yeah. That's happened.
It happened quite often.
But there's YouTubers who made entire videos where they're like, oh, there was this fog in the winter landscape, and they shot each other. It's like there was a few booby traps and there was a minor casualties, but like the YouTube community for a while really perpetuated this myth that like we were dunce idiots who started shooting each other. It's not true. It didn't happen like that. But yeah, Japanese had left the island, of course, way long before.
Yeah. Ooh, what about the last battle in the European theater where the German Wehrmacht and the Americans fought off
Schloss,
the SS?
yeah. It was Schloss, yeah.
Yeah, the last battle from Sabaton's song.
Are you wearing...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean,
I'm not
that
wearing
one...
that song, but yeah.
That's
a great fucking
That's
song.
also a good...
It's,
like where you had civilians...
Unfortunately, and I have this conversation with a lot of ignorant people, because there's a lot of ignorant people out there who don't understand what World War II was. They think every German was a Nazi. It's like, you understand the Wehrmacht and the SS were not the same thing. The Wehrmacht was not affiliated with the Nazi party.
Okay.
They are
before we go down that route...
No, Wehrmacht is not true. That's a myth.
The Wehrmacht actively participated in the death squads.
The Wehrmacht on multiple occasions.
That is a post-World War II narrative.
That's actually propaganda, yeah.
Yeah, that's thinking. It was propaganda
Americans
because
made it
of the
too.
Cold War. They were trying to...
Yeah. It was literally made
humanize the Western German forces.
Respect thine enemy.
And Heinz Guderian's part of
Respect
that.
thine enemy.
Yeah.
Heinz Guderian lied a lot in his memoirs,
Respect
and he's full of shit.
enemy. That's it.
But the whole point of this was that you
Look
did
at how
have...
Saladin looked with
Fucking Saladin comes in
Leper King.
I don't remember the name.
Are you talking about the movie?
Did you know it's Edward Norton?
Yeah, it's Edward Norton. Yeah, he didn't want to be credited
he's
either.
uncredited.
I watched it actually a month ago.
It's an entertaining movie.
It's a very good movie. It's very long though.
I'm looking everywhere for
not historically accurate in any way.
Ridley Scott needs to retire. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen the
Gladiator 2 is not a good movie.
Cut,
I love Ridley Scott. You gotta retire. You're making bad movies lately, dude.
But do you remember being in high school and they would put posters on the wall?
Good versus evil.
It was like, it's like there was a poster on the wall, and it's like the school put it up, and it was like
Kingdom of Heaven,
good versus evil,
Christian versus Muslim. Yeah, there's a poster. I remember seeing that. I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, do you really like? It's the Crusades. Both sides are using like mercenaries that are Christian and Muslim.
Basically, in the Crusades, they gave the fucking Christian people like fucking carte blanche. It's like, okay, whatever you do, as long as it's in the name of God,
it's
you will go to heaven.
Yeah.
You were unstoppable. You can go off, fucking rape, fucking kill a village. It doesn't matter because you're doing it in the name of taking the Holy Land.
If you were a murderer or you had performed a sin, you were going to go to hell. If you went on a crusade, you would be cleansed of it.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all of fucking the worst
great
of
marketing
Europe
ad,
is just like...
Yeah, it's a great way to get rid of those second and third sons that are just going around Europe fighting each other.
I just love... Okay, we can't go into this. I just love, like, the first crusade. No one talks about it, but it's like a bunch of Christians are just on their way killing peasants and Jewish people. All these unfortunate people on the way to Jerusalem. And when they get there, it's like, okay, well we're going to lose now.
What about that one crusade where they don't even make it to the Holy Land? They just stop at Constantinople.
Let's plunder it,
we're running out of gas. I guess we'll just fucking raid here.
We'll fucking take this shit. Okay, we're gonna
we're allies, right?
We're gonna end this here because this is devolved into too much dolphin talk. But I didn't say it at the beginning. Fuck. If you want to further support the channel,
whatever happened to the Dolphin of France? Because they didn't keep that term for very long after.
I thought it was ridiculous. There's no dolphins in France.
Let's just end the
they had them for a
podcast.
while.
Right,
what happened to them all?
If you want to further support the channel, please check out my YouTube membership or my Patreon account, www.patreon.com/thepacificwar channel. You get access to my exclusive podcast, early access to all the content I make, and voting rights for the subjects I will tackle next.
Don't forget to look for his OnlyFans.
Oh my god. Only friends. Okay? And I would like to thank my two guests who gave me a lot of input about
OnlyFans
Joan of Arc,
isn't just
mostly.
porn anymore. I get advertisements for OnlyFans, like you can learn how to knit and shit from OnlyFans. Like it's
because that's why you're on OnlyFans.
Yeah.
You're right. You learn to knit. You learn to knit. You learned that
I
from
have
the
no idea how to fucking knit. My brother used to knit when he was younger.
I did.
Okay, that's right. Well, thanks, guys. Until next time.
Bye.
See you guys.